I am working on a table runner because what better gift, last minute gift to give as a hostess gift during this holiday season is a holiday table runner. And of course, they've already set the table, but they'll have it for next year. So it could be a quick, easy gift, or it could be a very difficult gift. Hey, Miss Trotty. But it's like totally up to you. But I decided that this is what I want to go with. This is by American Patchwork and Quilting. And this is allpeoplequilt.com. And it's a free pattern. Awesome. Have a great holiday, ma'am. Hope you are enjoying retirement, and hopefully I will get there soon. Okay. So this is made up of blocks that look like this, if I've done them correctly. The green has the red in the center, yes. So this is the block, and it's a repeated block throughout the table runner. So we are making the blocks today, and this is what we will be working on. So I love how this is turning out so far. I went a little rogue with my fabric, and so far so good. So I'm going to set this aside. I will show this a little later. So let's just talk about pattern pieces. Let's talk about the pieces. The pattern itself calls for you to make 2.5-inch blocks, and they would look like this. And you are going to make the number of blocks that you need to create the square. I don't particularly like to make each block individually like this. I do like the piecing method. So then what that allows me to do is subcut and get units like this, opposed to having small pieces and then putting them together. I just feel like it saves time, and we'll talk about it like as we go along, but that's just me. So depending on where you fall in the spectrum of quilting or sewing would depend on whether that tip or trick works for you at this point, or whether you would prefer to just do it straight out from the pattern. So when you download the pattern, the cover looks like this, and they give you the suggested color palette that you could absolutely use. I'm deciding not to use this color palette. How are you doing, Dorothy? Hi, Patty. I'm deciding not to use this color palette. I decided to stay with this color palette, but I altered it just a little bit because I didn't have the black and white gingham, and I was like, yep, I could have probably came very close, but I was like, nah, I'm going to use something else. So I went with this holly fabric instead. So this is what I chose to do, opposed to going with the black and white. The directions themselves will show you how to put the units together. So there's a lot of words. To know me is to know I am very visual. Thank you, thank you, thank you for liking the live. Thank you for tapping the screen. They tell you to start with your 4-patch unit so that it's green, 2 blacks, and a red. Whatever your colors are, however you're choosing to do it, just know that what they're saying to do is to use 2 different colors, and then the solid other color is the same. And they're telling you to put them together like this, and then you're going to border it in this way. It's important that when you border it with those 2 pieces of fabric that you have, that you're putting that red right up against what is going to be your green or whatever color you choose to use. That's up to you. With the gingham, whatever I'm using, and in this case I'm using this, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to border 2 sides with what I am going to use, which is my red. Once I've finished all these units, then I can make this unit, which will be the final result. How you decide to put this together is up to you. You could do one at a time, like I did for my sample block. Have Merry Christmas. How are you doing today? So I can choose to do it one at a time, which I think takes longer, but it makes sense when you're just working on one block to have as your sample block, just to see if everything plays well together. Or you could, you know, chain piece them. And I'll be chain piecing today. Happy holidays. For some of us, it is Christmas Eve. So happy Christmas Eve to many of you. And to some of you, happy Christmas Day. So we know it is Christmas in certain parts of the world, and in other parts of the world, we are still waiting for the actual day to come. So what I did was I set everything up. I cut everything out. I told you before that the new game changer in my life is this Stripology ruler. I absolutely love it. And with using this Stripology ruler, I was able to cut out all my 2.5-inch strips that I needed. Again, the directions will tell you to cut 2.5 inches, square, all these other measurements. I started off with 2.5-inch strips, and then I'm going to subcut them. So that's the way that I chose to go, but I'm also going to work with some of the different methods, like I said, to chain piece these. Because I put everything together and I chain them, I already have some units already set for me, and then there are some that I still have to cut. So I'll show you that whole process as we go along. Okay. So the first thing in the directions, they tell you to make the 4-patch. And if I can show that to you again. The 4-patch is here. So for me, I need 2 blacks and then a red and a green. In order to set this up for me, and I know I need these. Okay, somebody can't count. We won't say who that somebody is. There we go. I need the green, and I have the wrong green. Let's make sure I got the right one because I did it right earlier. So let's do it right now. Okay, so I actually have 1 extra green because I wasn't sure if I needed it or not, but now I know I don't need it. Okay, so I have my red and my green, and I have the 2 blacks that are going to go with this. So what I'm going to do is open this up. I did not cut my selvage off. I can cut that off second. And I'm just going to take a green and a black. And again, they're telling you to take the individual squares and piece them. I'm not doing that because I think it takes longer. I'm going to do what we like to call strip piecing. So I'm taking 2 strips, I'm going to piece them together, and then I'm going to cut them down into the units. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch. You want to make sure that you are getting a true 1/4 inch. You do not need it to be bigger or it will throw your block size off. And it's better that it's smaller because you can at least trim the block down. You cannot trim a block up. So we'll make sure everything is lined up. I'll stop every so often, make sure that everything is lined up correctly. If you choose to use clips, you can. Pins, if you're really ambitious. But I'm just using my fingers and making sure that where my fingers stop, there everything is lined up. Okay, we'll come down to the end. Different manufacturers will have different sizes for their final widths. So it's possible that everything won't line up, and that's fine. Traditionally, our fabrics are somewhere around 40 to 45 inches wide. And that's selvage to selvage. So when you are figuring out how many of each thing you could get out, typically I'm right around the 40-inch mark. And so I will figure out my subcuts from the 40, not from, you know, is it possible that it's 45? Nope, I'd rather have less than not to have enough. I'd rather have too much rather than to have not have enough. I'm going to take the black and attach the red to it and do that section. So again, the directions call for you to have, I believe it's 22 pieces. 44 blacks, and then they expect you to have so many that are going to be green, and so many that are going to be red. I'm just making all of the subunits using the strip method, and then I will create those separately. When we finish, I think there are 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there are 11 squares in total that you will be making. And each square has two 4 patches. So 2 4 patches times 11 squares is 22. Okay, let me turn that off. Okay, and then one more to go. Okay, so I've already pre-cut some of the green units and some of the red units. So I only need so many more to finish this off. Okay. Let me move this paper out the way, turn my iron on. Okay. So what happens now is that I have created the strip unit. This is 2.5 by the width of the fabric. So this is the same as using that 2.5-inch square and associating these two together. I'm just doing them in strips, and then I'm going to subcut. It's still the same number of cuts, but at least I'm doing them as units, so it should move the process a little bit faster, and it avoids having little tiny pieces. So I have it for the green and I have it for the red. So that I nest my seams, I'm going to press to the black. So I'm pressing to the dark side. So I'm not pressing my seams open today. Merry Christmas, kids. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Okay. And again, we're working right now on completing just the 4 patches. We need 22 total. I've already completed 2 of them. So I only need 22 of them. I only need 20 more. So I'm just pressing this open, and I'm pressing my seam to the dark side. Come down a little, do the same thing. And again, we're pressing. We're not worried about ironing. We ironed our fabric before we got started. We added a little bit of starch, so we should, keyword is should, be good. Okay. So one down and one to go. And again, I'm pressing to the dark side. So it doesn't matter what direction this is in. What matters is that the seam is going towards the black. As I always say, for anybody, you can absolutely decide how you want to press your seams. Typical rule of thumb is to press to the dark side. And that's because typically, if your fabric is lighter, you'll see the seam through the light side. So to avoid seeing all those little short seams, we press to the dark side because there's a better chance of not seeing the seam through the darker fabric. But there's nothing stopping you from pressing your seams open. Okay. Good. So we got both of those done. And again, remember, we already have some of these subunits already cut. Let's move that one out the way. This is up to you, again, how you prefer to go with this. Let me turn this way so you can see it. First of all, we know that the lengths are not the same. So I'm okay with this. I'm going to cut this off when I make sure that I get a good straight edge. And I am going to line this up with my other side. You could do this individually if you like. Nobody has time for that in my camp. So I'm at least doubling it. Let me get my janky ruler out. I do have a ruler if I go upstairs. It's exactly 2.5 inches wide, but why run up there and do that? I'm going to line everything up so that it lines up nice and neatly. I have some overhang because I want to get rid of that edge. And now this is straight. Now I'm going to use my ruler to determine 2.5. Line everything up nice and neatly. Get it to 2.5. And then subcut. So this is 2 at a time to getting them all done. I made sure that my line that's lining up with this, so I have this nice and even at the bottom, but I'm also making sure that the line is straight here because I don't want it to go a little crooked. So I'm making sure that lines line up everywhere that I need them to, or even the dashes. Whoops, let me not do that. Measure twice, cut once. Oh, awesome. What is stopping you from sewing right now? That's 6.
Tomorrow in Collindale,
8.
there will be intermittent clouds with a high of 47 degrees Fahrenheit and a low
Oh,
of
thank you,
25
Alexa.
degrees.
Okay.
You just made my day. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas Eve, Jennifer.
10. And I think I need one more. Sometimes I'd rather go over than to not have enough, even though I'll still have this strip piece and it won't matter. Too much going on. Okay. Look, I understand. Because the goal is to get a whole bunch of stuff done while I'm off. Okay, so I have this piece left over. I could use it for something else. I may need it. I'm just going to set it off to the side because usually I will shred the fabric and put it in my scrap pile, but if I need it, then it'll be too late. Okay. Again, you can see here that it's a little off, but that's okay. We're gonna line everything up. It's gonna be a little janky, a little off, and that's okay because we wanna make sure that we cut off that excess. And like I said, different fabrics will sometimes have different widths. So you can't always guarantee that every fabric is going to yield you exactly what you want. So sometimes it pays to have a 1/4 yard extra. Number one, for mistakes, and number two, because if your measurements are close, you might need a little extra. And usually most people who create patterns will give you that extra, but just in case they don't. Take that off. And then we'll subcut these green ones. Now remember, in the pattern, this calls for 2.5 inches. So these are already 2.5 inches wide for the strips. So we've already done that. Now we're going this way to guarantee that we have our 2.5 inches this way. And again, if you have to err on the side of caution, go big, don't go small. So I'd rather be exact or a little bit bigger because at least I can square it down to size rather than be exact or smaller, and then there's a possibility that I went too small. Okay, let's put all the red ones in a pile together. Green, so far that's 4. And I've already created some, that's why I don't need as many. But I need a total of 20 in order to complete this. Measure twice, cut once. And again, if I make an extra piece, no harm, no foul, but the goal is not to not have enough. So I'd rather have too much than to not have enough. And if you know me by well, and know me, if I have a lot of pieces, 9 times out of 10, I probably will count to probably one less and not have enough. But that's okay, because as you can see for this unit, I still have all this left over if I need a couple more. Okay, so here we go. We need 20 units of 4 patches. So they're gonna look like this. So they're already set up in the order. Of course, I know I mixed up a few, but I'm just gonna chain piece all these together. When I chain piece these together, I'm just gonna lay one on top of the other. And I'm going to make sure that I butt those seams up together and nest them nicely so that I'll have a great line up and point in the center. And we'll take it to the machine, and we need to get to sewing. We got at least 20 that we have to do. Now, sometimes I'll botch up. So if I botch up, I might do 21, 22. That way, if I mess something up, at least I'll have an extra rather than not to have enough, but that's up to you. Your seams, you've subcut these, and so because you've subcut these, your seams are very, very weak. And that means if you do a lot of pulling, you may pull those 2 pieces of fabric apart and then have to re-sew them, so be very careful that you're not pulling your fabric. All right, some pulling may happen just because, but you don't want to pull a lot because it will loosen up that seam and then it will pull your fabrics apart. And I'm just leaving the foot down. I'm making sure my seams are nested together. and I'm just chain piecing. And again, we remember that some of these were flipped a different way, so we'll just make sure that we're flipping it the right way. We'll line everything up, not a lot of pulling, and then just take it and lay it under our machine. By chain piecing or batching these, once this is done, I don't have to come back to this. Hello, hello everyone. Merry Christmas Eve. Thank you all for joining me today. I am making a table runner. We won't say that this is quick and easy. I already have the gift for the hostess, but sometimes you are trying to think of a quick hostess gift that you can give, and table runners are great. Hostess gifts, wine bags are absolutely fantastic as well to make for hot pot tea towels, pot holder sets, placemats, coasters, and they don't necessarily have to be the thing that you are putting out for that, you know, for this season, right? They could absolutely be used for future seasons, and it could be related to the holiday, or you could have it related to a different holiday. Seems a little like, I'm not saying like in general, like give them Halloween, you know, unless Halloween is their favorite time of year, then absolutely I might, you know, give them a Halloween gift. But, you know, you may choose to give them something like spring, or, you know, something that, you know, resonates with them a little bit more, matches the kitchen, matches the dining room, matches their themes. Okay. And again, this is the step, right? After I would have pieced all those blocks together, all of the reds with the blacks and then all the greens with the blacks. But because I did some strip piecing, I just kind of saved myself those little itty bitty pieces. But now is the time that we would be caught up with where we would have been. And then I would have, instead of ironing one long strip, I would have had to have ironed all of those little pieces to one side, open, whatever. I'm still gonna have to do that ironing now with this, but at least I kind of save myself a little bit of time with strip piecing it. Okay, and I'm just going through the pile. Now, I remember that I probably pre-cut too many, so either I'm doing the whole thing or I'm just going to 20 because we've already completed a block, and I'll show you that block in a minute. Thank you for tapping the screen. We are at 1.2K. I say on my way to 10,000K. Again, remember, I subcut these units, and so because I subcut the units, the seams are a little weak. Oops, I think I did that the wrong way, but that's okay. I meant to have all my reds up top. And so you just want to be fragile. So I'm careful. So I'm not rushing through this process because I'm trying not to pull those seams apart. So for this holiday season, is there anybody out there that celebrates the holiday? And if you celebrate the holiday, or what are you doing? Like, are you doing something for the Eve today, or is it all just tomorrow? So you see what my Eve today is. So I am all things Christmas, but I don't really do a lot for the Eve. Never have. I know that there are some families who will open at least one gift on the eve. We can say I did that today. I opened up one gift. Did I see Naquatama? Because you know, my teachers, they like to slip and dive in on me. Off kilter, how are you doing, darling? Okay, and we'll get that. And again, just nesting it in there. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, Sabs, how are you doing, darling? Oops. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. You're celebrating tomorrow, a small gathering with your husband and sons. Oh. Okay. So one of my friends, she hosts Christmas dinner every year. She does every holiday with her husband and her sons. And since my husband had passed, they will not allow me to sit home and just chill. So they insist that I come over there to hang out with them. So that means I gotta get dressed. Now I'm gonna get dressed, like, you know, they don't have that kind of celebration, but I mean, just dressed in general. Like I can't lay around in my grunge PJs. So if I wear PJs, I have to, you know, wear the clean ones because I'm wearing them in somebody's house. I'm fine. Oh, wow. You guys do fireworks out there? I've never heard fireworks for Christmas. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. So we're just creating the 4 patches. And let me just stop for a second. And so here is the block. So the 4 patches right here, and we're creating the 4 patches for this particular unit. And I am I am chain piecing them because it just makes sense to do it that way for me. And I'd rather chain piece. I'm nesting the seams. So I'm just butting those seams one right up against the other to make a clean and neat 4 patch. But again, I chose to do the pattern a little different from the way that the directions called, and I did a strip set and then cut the strip set rather than doing individual 2.5-inch blocks. This is a free pattern, and so here's the pattern. It is a free pattern, Joyful Gathering, and this is by, I always get it wrong, American Patchwork and Quilting, and this can be found at allpeoplequilt.com. allpeoplequilt.com. Okay, and it looks like I have extra red strips over the green strips. So that means that either somebody can't count, or I might be at the end and just made a whole lot more red than I thought, which is possible. You're in Tennessee. Look, so we had snow yesterday. Yesterday it snowed, but it was warm. It wasn't 75 degrees warm. It was like maybe 40, so it was warm enough where the snow hit our vehicles and hit our fronts. But yeah, by the time noon came, all that was gone. I don't know when the last time I had a white Christmas. So, but yeah, I don't know if I want to wake up Christmas Day and have to shovel. I don't know about that. I'm not opposed to the snow, but warm weather is always my favorite time of year. And partially because I don't like to be cold. And I don't want to shovel. And I don't want to drive in it. So if I can sit in my house and just look at it, I'm good. But if I have to get up and clean the car and then drive, yeah, I don't want to do all that. I've gone skiing once. I felt like it was overrated. I've gone tubing. I like tubing. So that much I did like. Okay, and then this is the last green one that we have for this. Now with this, like I said, it's possible that somebody can't count. So there may be enough units here, or I may have to cut a couple more green ones to catch up with the 3 red ones. Okay. So everything is chained together like little flags. And we're going to take this to our urn and we're going to iron it. Oops. Hello everyone, welcome in. We are at 1.8K likes. Thank you for those of you who are tapping the screen. Okay. Ask me where my clips are. You just had them. And we're going to get the other ones. Okay, I knew I had them. So they always can't be far because I don't remember them falling on the floor. Okay. So I'm going to open this up. I can, again, press to one side if that's what I choose to do. I think these scissors are done. So we'll use these. I can press to one side, or I can press them open, but that's, you know, it's up to you. Again, I choose to go to the one side, and I will press those. Jan Carter, how are you? This is not a log cabin. So it has an element of what could be a log cabin, but it doesn't keep going around. So this is what the whole thing will look like. But this is the block. And so like right here, if this were the center of the log cabin square, here would be the first 2 units, and then we would put the next 2 around, but notice that it doesn't, like the green would stop here, you would have another green here, and then you would build it out. That's not what we're doing. So we just have this unit here. We're making those small units. So that's 1 unit, and this is the other unit. So, different strokes for different folks with the log cabin units. I didn't think that a log cabin was difficult for me. What I found hard with log cabins was that my seams didn't always stay straight. And sometimes you could see the curvy seams for the log cabins, and I found that frustrating when I was first learning how to quilt. So once I got the hang of that and it wasn't as curvy, then I started liking log cabins more. Now, we won't discuss the fact that I think I have a log cabin block by Eleanor Burns, or a quilt upstairs, and I don't think that it has been quilted. It's purple. And I absolutely know it's purple and green. I absolutely know exactly what it is, and I know the pattern. And I know that I probably I did not finish that. That should be one of the things that I do as a New Year's resolution. You will absolutely finish all of those quilt tops that you have not finished. I keep saying that every year and I don't do it. But I need to say that. Okay. So again, we're going to open these up. The great thing about your seam, that if you are pressing them to one side, and because you subcut these, when you go to open these up, they automatically kind of lay for you, because those seams will automatically open. Like, you don't have to play with them because you subcut, and it's just a little easier to open up that seam. So I can press. Whoops. Which way was that supposed to go? Oh, that was supposed to go that way. We'll turn that over. So you'll notice that one of the things that I like to do is just to kind of, my pressing version is just to hold, it's just to let the iron lay on it for a couple seconds and then pick it up. That way I'm not worried about me moving the iron too much and changing it from pressing to ironing. Okay. And so this, yesterday I worked on, but I did that on YouTube. I worked on a pattern that was really easy. It made a baby quilt. It came out really cute. It's very bright, and that was easy. This I wouldn't necessarily call intermediate, but it just requires a couple more pieces, and some squaring up as you go. So I don't think that this is difficult to do, but I do think that because the pieces are so small, it could take you a little bit of time, a little bit more time to get this done. And so while I will absolutely obsess if this were a gift for somebody, I would not necessarily recommend this as a last minute gift. Because nobody, like when you're sitting under the gun, if you're sitting at crunch time and you're worried about finishing something quickly, you do want to make sure that you give yourself enough time. You don't want to be up all hours of the night. Now, if you're making mom something and it is what it is, you might sacrifice sleep for mom. I don't know that I would sacrifice sleep for all my friends. I love them, but I don't love them that much not to get to sleep. Now, my girlfriend told me that, dinner is at 4. And so because dinner is at 4, I also have plenty of time tomorrow morning. And to know me is to know that I will absolutely work on some other projects in the morning. So, and I may not give her this table runner. I do have some other projects and other things that I could give. Hey, Shamir. Okay. And we're just taking each one. And I could go further down the ironing board if I so chose. Shamir, are you going to pop on to the party later? So one of the things about this table runner is that my goal is not necessarily to finish this tonight. I'm a little off, but I'm not totally off. So there's a possibility, like with things that take a little bit longer, it might take two. Their pajama party. I want to say they're coming on here and not Clapper. I think that's around 7 o'clock. And they're just doing open sew. You know, I just heckle from the audience. Okay, flip that one over. I thought it was tonight. Well, see, that's what happens when you don't pay attention. I thought it was tonight. I thought they were having two. Maybe it's Clapper tonight and then New Year's. It's New Year's. It's over here. I don't know. You know, I don't listen. And, you know, like my nephew says, put your listening ears on. My listening ears are not on, especially because we are off the break. You know, I always have a project, and I could always be quilting. Yeah, I did this one, so let me flip that. And then flip this one over. We'll come here. You're in chat. Okay. Oh, must be nice. My trainer, such a pleasant man. He decided to go on vacation. Now, typically, I don't take off because I know that I need to be with him 3 times a week. So when he took off, I was like, shoot, I could have went away. So, but I need to play the trip. I do. I just haven't really decided like where, and I really haven't decided like if close. Like close is always good for me, especially if it's a solo trip. But I'm trying to think like, you know, I need the girlfriend that's not the I don't have money girlfriend to go on a longer trip. Yeah, he still made us work out. This ninja sent a we were dancing on Monday. Like, thank you, Jesus. He's not gonna be here for a week. And he had the nerve, last night, and he's never done this before, but last night he sent a group text with a workout plan, like, here, that's what y'all need to do. I was like, who does that? Like, you're off, you're off. So, now, and to know me is to know I'm not a morning person. So I don't want to get up in the morning and do nothing. And I am fussing and fighting the whole way to have to get up in the morning to work out. And but everybody else, they're all morning people. So of course they all wanted to go in the morning. Now, I had already committed to getting on tonight to do, work on this. So because I said that I would, I knew that the 7 o'clock hour was not going to work for me, which is usually the time on Wednesdays that I do boot camp. I was like, oh, well, can't do it. And then they were like, yeah, you can get up in the morning. Let's go. So we're counting these. I have 10 so far. And I'm also putting them in order because that's going to be important for me. And so apparently somebody did miscount, which is fine, and made a whole lot of units. So somebody has even more units than she needed, which is good, which is fine. And let me pull this one out. So I can either make a bigger table runner, a longer table runner, or I can use these, let's say, for a pillow or a placemat or coasters. So I can always use them for something else. Let me press this one out since I already made the unit. Thank you for getting us to 3.4K. Okay, whole beads. Okay, so all of the 4 patches are together. They're done. And here they are here. Whoops. And you'll see that there's the 2 green pieces that are here. But what's key is to make sure that the green pieces are covering the red on both sides and leaving the green open. This is going to be key. So we need to make sure that that's taken care of. We also then have this, which is the red, and then this centerpiece here. But I'll show you what I did. You can cut out, again, the directions tell you to cut this out at 4.5 square, and then to add the pieces. Instead of doing that, I created the units. So let me set this aside for a sec, and let's create the unit. And again, I'm trying to do this in a way that makes sense for someone who wants to see the unit and the pieces as they come together, rather than waiting for me to do the entire thing and then put it together. Because if you just want to see the pieces and then you're like, okay, I got how she put that block together, I'm good, then, you know, you might be able to go on your merry own way, get your gifts wrapped, go out to visit family, whatever you need to do, and not feel like you missed something. So that's why I'm going to jump forward, jump back, and then do it that way, rather than, but I can't, I don't want to do one by one, because that'll drive me crazy. Okay, so I subcut these, the width of the fabric. They said that each square should be 4.5 inches square. So I cut this 4.5 inches wide. Excuse me. And I will subcut them when I get to that point. But what I'm going to do, this is a little janky. Let me put that under the iron for a minute. Okay. What I'm going to do is add the red onto the edge of this. And then we're going to subcut that. 1, 2. So we're going to do 2 of these to start. See how many pieces we have. Again, in this block, there are 2 of these. And I need 11. So that means I need 22 of these. Yes, it is. It's a work of art. But I love it. I absolutely love it. And so I don't mind doing it. And I love to create. Hey, Anna J, how are you doing, love bug? And then I have one that's even harder than this because I'm pattern testing. So that's the next one that I need to be working on. So I will probably be doing some of that tomorrow morning. Thank you, Danny. If not, this weekend. Okay, so we're going to take the red and the holly. We're going to put those together. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch. And again, if you feel the need to pin this, knock yourself out. If you feel the need to clip it, you could clip it. I'm okay lining this up, the 2 edges, And then I use my 2 fingers and I just hold them together. Then when I get close, I reposition my fingers and I take the next set. Hey, Brooklyn Timmy, how are you doing? Kai Blue, how are you? Okay. Say happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. For those of you who celebrate, happy holidays, happy Kwanzaa. I believe we are coming out of Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah. And then we'll do the second one. Awesome. So how are you doing, Monet? Hello, Shannon. Okay. And then we'll take this one. So we're just going to go ahead and do the 2. I am doing wonderful. Look, first of all, when I finished with work yesterday, that was like, yay! And I mean, I don't count down the days because I love what I do. But I'm always happy for a break. So to kind of make life a little fun, we decided, well, we didn't decide, but we did decide. We have 2 climate managers at our job. And I was, knowing that we had 2 days of school, 2 full days, and knowing that our attendance was going to be low, and it was, we decided to have some fun and have some challenges, staff versus students. So one activity that we traditionally do is a basketball game. So we set up the basketball game. And then I got outvoted because I said flag football. And the climate managers voted me down. And they said that we were going to do kickball instead. I was like, kickball? I ain't done kickball since kindergarten. But okay. So we're going to do kickball because, I'm not planning this. I was just the brains behind the operation. And I was, Ooh, awesome, Lauren. Thank you. Welcome in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I agreed, since I'm not planning this event, I just gave out the blueprint for what they needed to do to have the event. So I had to agree to kickball. Now, because I also encourage this, I thought it was important to participate, not just to say that this is something we need to do and not participate in the event. So I gave the charge to my 2 climate managers, both men, and I looped in my gym teachers, my phys ed teachers, who are also both men, and I looped in the athletic director because there were things that, he could set up for it. Wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of. The gym was secure, all that kind of stuff. And the attendance person, because it's technically attendance event, even though these gentlemen were running it, to ensure that students show up to school. Okay. And of course, right in the middle of ironing, here comes the puzzle piece. So let me get up and fix that. So we talked about the events, and with the kickball, and so we decided kickball would be on Monday and basketball would be on Tuesday. Now, everybody is not old at work. And even if you are like I'm older and I don't, act like I'm older. So kickball seemed like it should be easy. And basketball was going to require a little bit more work because, you have to run up and down the court. So we said, okay, we're going to start with this kickball, see how this goes. The one we were really fretting was the basketball because, we don't have the best of shape people, even if they're young or old, in our school. So, so of course, I'm talking mad trash because that's who I am. And I, told the students, I'm gonna do this. Now, I am one of the senior people in the team. In the school, because I'll be 60 in a couple years. So here I am out there playing kickball. And now I do work out. So because I work out, I should be in shape and I should be able to do kickball. Let me pause for my story. So I have sewn the units together. We've pressed them open. I am going to take, hey Monica, I am going to take this now and cut that first piece off, and then I'm going to subcut these into 4.5 inches. So then they will look like this. So that's what I'm going for. So let me do that and let me get back to my story. So I'm talking mad trash, telling my students that, I'm going to play kickball. You're going to be out there. Who signed up? Don't let this old woman fool you. Don't let this old woman beat you. This is all the mad trash I'm talking. So for the most part, the basketball players all agreed to play kickball. And not many other students agreed. So the staff gets out there. I'm very impressed. There's about 12 of us that are all out there ready to play kickball. 4 inches. So I'm out there again, still talking mad trash. And the first time that I get up to kick, of course, I fouled out. But that's okay. We weren't losing by much. The boys are trying to kick it out, like typical, people trying to get like a home run, with this kickball. And we're just trying to catch it. And we're making all kinds of errors, all in the gym. So the second time that I get up there to kick, I actually kicked the ball, kicked it over one of my students' heads. Good job, girl, good job. And I made it to first base. Now I got to make it around these other bases. I still think they pushed those bases back too far for second base, but I'm standing there. The person behind me, who gets up next to kick, she kicks the ball. And I want to say she kicked and fouled out, or got out from, a pop fly or whatever. So I'm watching this, and then I realized, oh shoot, I have to run. And I took off running. And what you shouldn't have done, one of my students stood on the line. And I ran smack dab into him. And I hit him hard. So he went down, I went down. I want to say his mouth hit my head right up in the corner. Oh, it was ugly. So because, mother, I'm sitting here like, are you okay? And he's like, I'm fine. And I'm like, no, are you okay? Meanwhile, the men on my team are like, run. You can't just worry about him, run. No, I don't. I'm going to make sure my baby's okay. So I was out. But they hit me with the ball anyway, so it didn't matter. This pattern is Joyful Joyful Gathering. And this is a table runner, so I'm working on the table runner. I took out the gingham and I used a different print. And I absolutely like love this, and it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Oh, awesome. It's been sitting in my stash for a while. I kept saying I was going to make it, I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it. And then it was like, girl, pull out these fabrics that you have from Christmas and get busy. Thank you. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have over here 2, 4, 6, 7. So we have 16. So we need 4 more. Okay. So we'll have plenty left. Plenty. And again, if we need to make the table runner bigger, or if we decide to make something else like a pillow, or placemats, or anything else, we'll have that as leftover as well. Okay, so yeah, so for the rest of the day, for the kickball and into the next day, the men were like, Dr. Hell ran into him like a linebacker. I was like, really? And the kids were clowning the student because they were like, I took him out. I was like, really? Like, I didn't take him out. I just kind of knocked into him. But he shouldn't have been standing on the line. You don't hit a ball, you don't stand on the line. You don't stand on the line and wait to catch the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, yeah. But, of course, because, how do I know he hit my head? He hit my head because, yeah, I got a little hickey there now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, the only thing I could think, because of my age, I'm going to do 2 more just in case, was like, please don't let it be a concussion. That's the only thing I could think of. And I know that concussions, take on a lot of different meanings and names depending on who's defining it. Let me just finish this off because I may need these. It just depends on who's defining it, because I tell you, when things happen, every time I turn around, somebody has a concussion. But I was just like, oh, please don't let it be a concussion. I got like 1 more day, and I don't want to be home over the Christmas break, like laid up. So, but the nurse was like, girl, put some ice on it. I said, thank you. I knew it wasn't anything. And I still went home and did boot camp. I still worked out. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. Okay. So we now have these units done. So these units are done, and these units are done. So this unit gets 1 more piece on the side of it to box that partially in. That's why we still have extra red. Now you could do 1 of 2 things. You can either subcut this to 6.5, or you can lay these out like this, and then just attach them same way, like piecing, right, along here, and then subcut them in between each unit. That's totally up to you which way you want to do this. Do I have enough pins over here? Somebody had clips, and somebody dropped the clips on the floor earlier today. Okay, let's clip there just so you can see what that looks like. is you're not going to have enough of this anyway. So, because you're going to end up squaring your blocks up anyway. Oops. Okay, I know I had more clips, but okay. Jenna, I don't know about that. I don't know if it's brilliant. It's time saving. But again, it doesn't matter. It's what you prefer. And I just want these like close enough where I can get as many on a strip as I possibly can. Okay, there's a little left over at the end, and it wouldn't have been enough to get another row if I would have went closer, but you could get just about as close as you want. Okay, so each strip is going to yield me about 6 of these. So I'm going to need about 4 strips to get through all of them. But actually, yeah, about 5 strips if I include the fact that I didn't do the first one. Merry Christmas Eve, Miss Shannon. How are you doing, darling? And we'll take this back to the machine and we will stitch. I have my clips. And again, you just, it avoids the little pieces. So I'm strip piecing, and I'm avoiding having 1,000 little pieces. I have nothing else that must be done. I half did my tree. It does have a couple Christmas balls on it. I didn't put all the ornaments on there. I said, I could do that later on. So maybe a little later I'll do it, or maybe I'll leave it the way it is. We'll see once the lights come on how I like it. The angels on the tree at the top. I did put the gifts underneath of it. Somebody's supposed to be cooking to contribute to dinner tomorrow, and it would be nice if she did that tonight so that it was prepped for tomorrow. But to know her is to know it might not get done until the morning. Thank you, Debbie. I try. I do. Okay, so then that's one set that's done. Let's go ahead and do the second and the third set. So I am going to end up with $18 done, and I'm going to need 2 more for a partial strip. But I made enough strips so that I can get that done. I may go ahead and just do all of them because, again, remember, I made extra. Okay, I have to say, you have to think about this. Like, sometimes do you mess things up and then you have to go back and think about what you did. 1, 2, I don't think, no, I'm good. Because when I open this up, it'll be fine. Yep, okay. I had to think about that for a minute. I can put it on this side. I meant to put it on this side. So I'm just lining everything up so that when I take it to the machine, I can just stitch. But again, you do need to pay attention to how you're constructing this so that everything is going in the right direction, because one wrong move and you are picking out the entire thing. And again, thank you everyone for joining me. We are working on a simple table runner, a table runner that could be for your house or someone else's. There is nothing wrong with creating a great hostess gift, even though my brother should be calling me soon because I know he's probably gonna be like, that chick. I was supposed to go to New York to visit my brother. He's going to a friend's house, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to make that trip to New York just to go to somebody else's house. I could go to somebody else's house and drive 20 minutes away. So, you know, but if I were going to her house, you know, I don't like to go empty-handed. And sometimes people will say, don't bring food. And I'm not going to I don't want to show up empty-handed. So, of course, a great handmade gift works for folks because, yeah, they love it. And you're getting something, in my mind, that would be a lot more, it's going to cost me less, but it's going to be more expensive than if you bought it yourself. I mean, it's going to be more expensive, right? Like for me to make this and to sell this, I'll be spending, my time and my effort is going to cost, a lot. So they're getting a nice gift, if you should say. It's a nice expensive gift that didn't cost me much to make. I mean, I didn't have to go out and buy fabric because all this fabric is already in my stash. To know me is to know that I am all things Christmas. So I have plenty of Christmas fabric. I'm using a lot of the Christmas fabric for this project, but I absolutely could have used my blenders, my solid prints. Well, it's solid, it's not a print, but I could have used my solid fabrics to create this as well. So the red could have been something that was red or red as a solid red. The green could have been something that, well, most of the greens do read as a solid. And the black reads as a solid. So I didn't have to use all of my Christmas stash up. I just needed this focal fabric to look that way. Okay, and then we have this last one here. And remember, at most, I need, what did I do? 6, 6, 6, 18. So I need at least 2, but we're gonna go down probably the whole strip because I have extra units and I can make a pillow out of them. Each of the blocks are about 12.5 inches. I'm making 11 of them. I could add extra on and make it a longer table runner. That would be totally up to me. If you were making it for your table and you know the size of your table, then you can make it longer. If you don't know the size of the person's table whom you're giving it to, you can make an assumption, right? So I can assume they have a standard size dining table, and then, if I want to keep it short, then I know it'll fit on the table. It just won't hang over the edge. And then they might even decide, after all that thinking that I did for putting on the dining room table, they might put it on a different table. I do have extra left over for that one block that is going to be by itself. That's not fitting on this. Like, really? Okay. So everything is here. We'll move that out the way. We'll worry about that later when I'm thinking about what I want to do with my orphan blocks. And we'll take this back to the machine, and we got a 1/4 inch, and we have 3 strips that we need to put together. And again, it just makes sense for me to put it together like this. You could do these one by one. You could do them in groups of 4. you could decide to make the block and say, you know what, I'm not making that whole table runner. It's gonna be a pillow. You could take the block, add sides to it, and say, I'm just gonna make a placemat. And I'm only making 4 of them. So this is totally up to you to decide like what you want this to look like. This does not have to fit the mold of the pattern. This is your project, and this is going to turn out the way you want it to go. If somebody else is commissioning you to make it, then, well, you got to do what they tell you to do. If they give you creative license, you might change some things up. But again, like I said, for me, I feel like doing it this way, it goes a little faster. But we will go through 1, 2, 3. I got 4 of them, right? So we'll go through all, well, oh no, I did this one. I have 2 more to go. We'll get through this one. We'll do, I think, 1 unit of the green. And then, because the green is going to happen a little differently, but we can still do it the same way if you choose. We'll talk about that. This only called, well, no, it's like almost the same. This called for 1 side. We actually have 2 sides of the green that we have to do. Okay, thank you for getting me to 7.6K. Thank you for tapping that screen. Okay, and 1 more after this one. So I do get a little obsessed when I'm doing the strip piecing method, just because it just makes sense to go through it all. But like I said, it's up to you whether you want to do them individually in pieces or whether it makes sense to just do them all. I figure the unit is done when I finish it, so then I don't have to go back and think and do the same thing to the next one when eventually I get to it. But like even with making the unit for the 1 block that I already made, I could have made several blocks and had those finished if I had started earlier. But no, somebody did not have all her ingredients. She was farting around the house all day. And then when she finally left, she left because it was important that she went not to get the stuff from the supermarket, but to go get the homemade cookies that somebody had baked. And, you know, like she needed homemade cookies. So she went out and got her homemade cookies. And since she was out, then she went to the supermarket. And luckily for her, it wasn't that bad in the supermarket. She just could not find any coconut cream for her coquito. So now she's going to have to think about like what that looks like and probably look in her cabinets and see if she has some cream in the cabinet. Because she keeps saying she's going to make it and then doesn't make it. Hey, Livette, how are you doing, darling? Happy Christmas Eve, darling. Okay. So all of these are done here. And again, what I will do is I won't do all of these. So I'm going to take these 3 and just set them aside. Because again, we may not finish all of these today, but at least we'll get the gist, because I may do some tomorrow morning, but we'll get the gist for how everything goes together. So we'll keep the 1 unit, and what we'll do is make the units for just one of these, and then we'll put them together. Okay, so we're gonna iron these, but we'll hold off on that for a second. So we can take our green unit, and we can do similarly what we did with the holly leaves, right? We can take this and attach this the same way. When I attach this, I want to make sure that the red is touching the green. I do not want the green touching the green. So essentially they're going to go, I'm leaving about maybe a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch in between. So I only need 2 to create the block, but it makes sense to go down the whole thing. And I'm just giving myself enough clips because clips are easy, pins are not. Pins hurt, clips don't. Okay. So again, we did all of the holly ones. We will hold off on clipping all of the 4 patches. And I'm getting more 4 patches on right now because I don't have that extra side. Hello, hello, how are you doing? Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful Christmas Eve. Okay, so we're gonna set this off to the side. We're gonna set these off to the side because, oh no, well, I'm gonna need at least 2 of those. Okay, so we set those off to the side. And they're curling up, so let me just pop them real quick with the iron. And then we will clip these. We'll stitch these together. Okay. The seams are going towards the foot, so it is important that when I get to a new block, or for some of the seams, that I am stopping to make sure that they don't fold back on themselves, because I don't want those folds anywhere in this. It's not the end of the world, you just don't want it. You can work around them, you just don't want it. If you have to take it out, you're going to be subcutting these anyway. We're down to the last one. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tapping the screen. We are at 9.6K. That's what I'm talking about. Might make it to 20. Okay. It's probably only if more than one person is tapping. If more than one person is tapping, we might not make it. Okay. did my iron heat up? I know one thing. It's playing with me. It's playing with me. Okay. So we have these pieces already done. And we have these pieces done. We are at 10K. Yay! Okay. So we are pressing our seams. We're pressing them flat. And then we can open these up. And we're going to press these flat. If you feel like they're not getting as flat as you would like them to be, you could just add a little bit of spray starch. You don't need much. One of the things that folks will mention about spray starch, especially if you have not already starched your fabric, sometimes the threads will kind of tighten up on you when you do that, and it could slightly change the dimensions of your pieces. And if it does that, sometimes it will throw you off. So if you don't have to wet your fabric, if you don't have to use steam, that's a good thing. But if you've already pre-washed your fabric, if they weren't, especially if they weren't pre-cuts, or if you already pre-starched your fabric, if you didn't want to wash it, but you decided to starch the heck out of it, then if you've done that, then if you add a little bit more starch, it should not really affect much. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this one. And we'll press that. Oh, how are you doing? Is it Elena? How are you? Happy Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve to you. My sewing machine for years has gone off during Christmas. As you know, between embroidering and sewing, oh, you can get a gift from me. Y'all like my talent? Oh, here you go. Why should I be at the store? But of course, then when I'm not at the store, I'm still sitting in front of the machine. And mind you, the event might start at 6 on Christmas Day, and who might still be sitting at the machine, either making the outfit or the present at 5:45. Because I am last minute Susie. Bear, how are you doing, darling? Okay. One more unit there to do. I do like simple patterns. I do like to do something that's easy. I think they're great palette cleanser. But I also like when there are some intricate details in some of my creations, just because I think that, I love the way it looks. But sometimes I think less is more, and it could be in the print of the pattern versus being in the actual design of it. See, Livette, that's what I'm saying. Are you sewing the shirts, or you like doing the vinyl on the shirts, or sublimation? Because yes, that is so me. Okay, so we're gonna trim these up. Vinyl. Okay. That's so me too. I will absolutely be sitting there doing the vinyl shirts. Look, any event, like, ask me to make something, and I am still making them shirts the day of. or the day that I have to give them to somebody. I'm like, why are you still making this? I will get up the morning of an event and make a shirt. And we used to do that when I had a girlfriend that sewed when I was younger, in my 20s. And we would go to the club. And we would sit there and I'm just subcutting these, but I'm lining them up with the edge of that square with the ivory print to give myself a nice straight line. I'll square them all up later. I'm just subcutting them right now. We would sit there, and our parents were like, we always knew when y'all were going out, because on a Friday night you would hear the machine and y'all were on the phone. Absolutely, because I needed to know what she was going to wear. And I needed to know if I needed to make something new too. Because if you were going to recycle what was in your closet, then we could both recycle what was in our closet. But if you were making something new, you couldn't make something new. I wasn't making something new. So we're going down together, or we're recycling together. And she was like the Project Runway person in the group. Like, you want to talk about somebody who, could put together an outfit and look fly? That was my friend. If you wanted something that was made well and, followed directions, that was me. So I followed the pattern. She didn't. Okay, so what we're going to do, and again, I may not do these for all of them. I may just do them for the ones that I'm squaring everything up, and I'm using my lines to make sure everything is nice and square. And then I will flip this way and do the same thing. So I'm just making sure that everything is lined up. And again, this is the tedious part, which is why I said I'm not necessarily going to sit here and make all of them tonight, because I will take the time to square it up. And while I'm squaring it up, I can watch somebody else on live. So we did one unit, and we'll square all these up just because. There is, in some cases, like a little bit of a fold back. So just be careful of that. It comes up sometimes. But I'm making sure these blocks are 6.5. And again, I can give you those measurements because this is a free pattern. We're not a free pattern. I cannot give you the measurements. Okay. I cut these two, so I'm turning them now so these two are inside. They should be greatly squared, and I should be able to line them up really well at 6.5. 6.5 on both sides. And then if there is something to cut, it'll get cut, and if there's not, we're good. And again, there's a little bit of a bump there, so it might be a little off, but it shouldn't be too far off. I should not be at 6.25. Okay, and this will happen like as I go and as I get comfortable with that 6.5 look, because I need to measure twice, cut once. I want to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. Okay, we got exactly 6 of these. Good, 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 good. Start with the red out. And so you're just, again, you're trimming these to 6, and it helps to, if you do this to your pieces, along the way, it'll help with the accuracy. So nothing is 100% accurate, but what you want to do is get it as close as possible. The closer you are, whoops, the better off you'll be with the final result. And let's do these last two. So again, we know we have a lot more to go. This right here will at least finish 3 blocks. And the great thing about the table runner is that once you finish this, like, you're just putting the blocks together. So we're not as worried as a closing point for us at this, like, oh darn, she didn't finish it. Like, you'll see the final picture because, you know, I'll post it, and we already know that I might obsess and finish this tonight. It's just that you don't have to watch me sit here and cut like every single last piece off. You'll get the gist from what I'm doing, and then you'll work from there. But I'm making sure that I am at 6.5 here, and then I am working out here. Now, could I use my Stripology ruler for this? Yes. I absolutely could. I'm used to using a square ruler, so I have not used a Stripology ruler. I would do that offline just so I don't embarrass myself. To make sure that I get everything straight. Okay, cool beans. Okay, so all those are done. And then we just need to do these. But these are finished. These need another side done. And I just need to so what will we do? We'll cut all of these off because that'll make sense. Oops, didn't get that little edge. It's like one little thread that you don't want to pull because you don't want to snag. Girl. Which is why, you know, yeah. And I have, like, did I put it? Oh, okay. Like, I do have the ruler that goes with the system. It's just that I grab this one usually first. So this fits right into the track. But I'm making sure that I line up the block. I'm making sure I line up the square on the inside because sometimes something is crooked or maybe a little bit off. And I make sure everything is lined up the way it needs to be. I can put this in the track. And again, I would only need like 6 of these, but it just makes sense to finish the whole row. And that's why I'm going ahead and finishing it. You don't have to. You, at this point, like I said, you could do these one by one if that's what you prefer. My red end is the end that I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about the black end, so I'm leaving the excess on that end. When I go to square it up, I'll worry about cutting that extra off. So I don't have to cut it on both sides. I just need to cut it on the one, and I'm cutting it near the red because remember, we're encasing the red with this green print that we're adding to it. And we'll cut that last little tail off just because it'll look a little crazy if I don't. Okay. So this side is done. And then we need this side to be done. And again, that's the same process, even though you don't need all your clips, but you'll probably use them as you're finishing this up off of the live. And we're just going to attach this, making sure that the red, right? I could turn it this way, just because I like it facing me better, but I want that red inside. And again, I should need no more than 6. But we'll just go down the whole line, because we don't have to finish all of the blocks. We only need to finish one, just so you can see how it comes together. And that doesn't mean that I won't stay on here. It just means that at least at that point, you've seen enough of the process, and then we'll talk about like how that all goes together, which is really simple. Somebody heated up their dinner and didn't eat it. Look at that. Might not be doing that on live, because I probably need to go eat that dinner that I heated up. Okay. So these two are the two that are left over. We'll put that right in that pile. We'll come back to those. Okay. So everything is here, and we just need to stitch all of these onto this strip, and then we'll subcut these. We'll get all those together, and then we'll be ready to put the 4 units together to create the block. And I have a clip here at the beginning of each block and at the end of each block. And that's just helping to keep everything in order, keep everything smooth, so that I can make sure that it runs across correctly and that I'm not getting any buckling or folds that shouldn't be in it. And again, it's not the end of the world to have them, but it helps the process not to have it there and then either to have to rip it out or to have to press the heck out of it to get it to lay flat. Where are we at? One more here. Bits. Okay, so again, everything is just stitched out. So we chain piece those all together again. Take it back to our trusty dusty iron and we'll press those open. And this is similar to like yesterday. You have to press it. It makes it look cleaner. So you don't have to, but you're gonna have a bunch of wonkiness and you won't know if it is overly wonky until you press it. And so I'd rather catch any mistakes or catch it being real wavy and wonky in the beginning rather than at the end where I have to rip out several pieces. So again, just trying to make sure that the pieces are as flat as possible. If that requires some steam, if that's what you prefer. I usually use a dry iron, or you could use starch. There are all sorts of different starches you can use, and there are people who treat the starches differently. So some people, like, this is a mister, and this mister will give you a lighter spray than your typical spray bottle. Give me 1 second, I will show you the pattern. So, and this is a free pattern. This is American Patchwork and Quilting. It is a part of allpeoplequilt.com. And the pattern is called Joyful Gathering. Okay, so it looks like this. I have a tendency sometimes to either go rogue and change up all of the colors, or I stay close to what the colors are in the quilt. So in this particular pattern, I kind of sort of stayed close to them, but I changed up some things. So this is the pattern. Again, this is American Patchwork and Quilting. This is found on allpeoplequilt.com. It is a free pattern, so you can download it. If you have a color printer, you go ahead with your color printer. If you have a black and white, you can, well, I don't know why they call it black and white. It prints out in black, but if you have just black ink, you can use that. If you use the black ink, like sometimes if I'm sewing, I will just set up my computer to see color, or my iPad, and then I'll print it out in black and white, or if I print it out. Okay, so what I did do was I shared how I do this a little bit differently, because I use strip piecing opposed to cutting out a bazillion little pieces. So this is the strip piecing here. Instead of cutting out the 2.5 by 6.5 inch strip, I just cut out a 2.5 inch strip. I attached all these to it, and then I'm just going to cut these apart. I could, like, you have, the 9 is the smallest. I probably have another one. I see a bigger one, because I like to torture myself. I have a 6.5 inch ruler. Okay. So, like, you have that epiphany, like, right after you sat there and tortured yourself with a 9 inch, right? Okay. So I can take this, line this up the way that it needs to be lined up, and with this True Cut system, it has these lips all the way around here that will allow me to cut around all the edges and get it. Ask me why I didn't do this earlier. But that's because most people don't have the True Cut. And so if you had to do it the other way, you would have done it the way I did it. So that would have been too much like right. Especially when you have a 6.5 inch ruler. And these are 6.5 inch blocks. Shh. We won't discuss that I didn't do with that earlier. Okay, and we're just cutting off the excess. Whoops. Just applying a little bit of pressure, and that absolutely stayed flat, and then all of a sudden, when I turned it the last time, it didn't. So we'll just line that up again, and then we'll cut that little bit of excess off. And I didn't start at the beginning, so let me cut that off. Okay, so we can move past these real quick. Okay, so we only need 2 each, but we'll just go ahead and cut all of these off of here just because I won't have to worry about that. And then I can subcut that. Okay. Don't talk about the way I cut, because yeah, that wasn't good, and I realized that halfway through. Okay. Sometimes when you do the cuts, sometimes your cuts are not perfect, and that's okay because nobody is perfect. So if it is a little off, you can absolutely fix that, and you can absolutely catch it in the seam. Okay. And we also have extra. So because we have extra, we can work it from that angle too. Because if you don't mess up all your blocks, but you messed up one, then what you can do is catch it with the next this is off for some reason, but that's okay because again you have enough blocks that you can make it work. Okay, so you did 2 there, and then we'll do 2 here. 1, 2. Cool beans. 2 more. And then we'll be able to lay these out and then put those together to create the block. And again, once we create that block, we can look at the block and talk about like what we do with those blocks. The only thing that I don't like about this is that if I don't get that edge off, I do need to use a regular rotary cutter to kind of split it because it is a little hard to see with this True Cut. But other than that, I love the fact that I can rotate this all the way around. Okay, and we got 1 more. And you do want to make sure that everything is nice and straight. And again, line everything up just as nice and neatly. Check your curves to make sure everything is on point. The biggest chunk should be off of those green ends because I did not cut those to the edges. Okay. Awesome. Shannon, I am so happy to have you. Quilting is not that hard. Stop playing. It is not that difficult. Okay. Okay. Let's make sure we do it in the right way. So the layout calls for it to go like this, and I am going to stack it. So there are 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then they're telling us to go. Is it that direction? Yep. Okay. in this direction. 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So the final block with the units are put together looks like this. And so we are on page 2, right? And we're right here. So we're putting everything in the order that it's supposed to go on. And they tell us to do these, and then put these together. It's a 4-patch. That has been my theme. Once I finish the 4 patches and I get them all together, they show you how to lay them out. All the reds are going to be up top and bottom, and then the greens will be going from side to side. And what you'll do is you'll sew these together, these together, these together, and then you'll put them together. Okay, let me show it this way because that looks better, because you can see it kind of coming together here. So you'll sew it, it's the same thing, but you'll sew these together, these together, these together, and then you'll add the block in here, and then you'll start adding them all together. And then what they have you do is just use a straight edge to cut off everything to make it even all the way around, because your finished table runner is going to have straight edges. If you don't want to lose all of that work when you're cutting straight down, then you could leave it like this. And my suggestion would be to take a bigger piece of fabric and just sew all the way around it. Clip your corners and turn it in and leave it jagged like that. That's up to you. So if I worked really hard on this and I don't want to cut all those edges off, I either can do that, or I can create extra blocks, cut them in half, and fill them in here, which will help me to get that straight edge. So I would need a block here and here. That's 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. So we need 4 extra blocks that you would have to cut in half to fill in those spaces. That's the only other way that you could do it, if you didn't follow their directions. So if you didn't want all of that cut off, then that's the way that you could do it. And they give you the directions here for how you would do that. But again, that's up to you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm gonna have to see how it looks and then decide what's going to work best for me. But again, that's totally up to you, the way that you want it to go. So everything is together. Here's my extra. We're just going to push that to the back. And we will have 4 blocks done when we finish this, because we have 3 here and we have the one that is somewhere laying up under all of my rulers. So we have the one that's done. Okay. So we're going to make all of those look like this. So it's only 3. Because this is a 4 patch, and we'll separate that out so you can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take this and flip this over onto this, sew those together. So I'm going to do top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom. Once I do that, I'm going to press it, and then I'm just going to flip those 1, 2, 3 to create the unit. Okay. So we're going to take this unit to this unit, this unit to this unit, and we're going to stitch these 2 together. Everything should be 6.5, so it should, keyword is should, line up and match corner to corner. If you need to back stitch, this is the time to do it, because you're not going to be trimming that block up, and you don't want them to come apart. Back stitch front end. Now we're going to take the one at the bottom. Remember, top, bottom, top, bottom. We're going to put these 2 together. They should, keyword should, line up, because they should be 6.5. Back back stitch a little. Then we'll start, we finish with the bottom. So we'll take the top to the top, the bottom to the bottom, and we'll do the next one. So this is the great thing about chain piecing now, right? Because this part it goes a lot faster. When you get to the bigger units, it doesn't quite take as long. Didn't back stitch. Okay, we'll get those done. Again, measuring up, corner to corner. If they're not measuring up, this is the time to switch out with those extra blocks. This is the time that you may have to seam rip if you only have exactly as many blocks as you need and no extra fabric. But just make sure that they match up. They're a 1/16 of an inch off. I'm gonna fudge it to make it work. A little bit of stretch. I do not want them to be a 1/4 inch off and trying to stretch. Okay, and this is the last one of the 3. So we had 18 all, no. We had 12 all together that we put together in 2s. So now we should have 6 because they're 2 by 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We're going to clip these apart. Sometimes I will leave the units together 2 by 2, but I'm just going to clip those apart. Thank you, thank you, thank you for 11K. Might not seem my dream of 20, but I'll take 11. Okay. We're going to open this up. I'll press to the green. Okay. Lisa, how are you? And we'll just press it off, right? I'm just going to press to the green. And again, this is personal preference, which way you want to press it. You can absolutely press this open, or you can press them to one side. I'm preferring to press them to one side. That is my preference. Okay. So most of this process, I have pressed the seams closed. You are more than welcome to press the seams open. So some of the, oh, I didn't clip this one. Some of the lives that I will do, I press the seams open. Some of them I press close. Depends on which way the wind blows. Okay. And did I press that to the wrong side? I see it now. So I do want to go back and take that last one that I pressed to the wrong side, and I want to push that to the green. I did not mean to push that to the red. And that's because I just want my seams to nest, and if it's they're gonna overlap, and I don't want that. Okay, cool. Okay, there we go. The red is on the outside. The green is pointing in. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So they are still in the same order. I have 3 in each row, in each set. So remember, we went from left to right or right to left, either way. Now we're going to go from top to bottom. And this will put the units together. Because I stitched to the green, to the dark side, if you will, this seam is going in this direction. The one on the bottom is going in this direction. So that will help me to match the seams up and help them to nest. That means they're going to lock in. And I can hold it together with a clip. I can clip as much as I like. I can clip on the ends. I can clip at the seams. That is up to you, but I do want to clip right where they meet up. Okay. I never like to clip the first one just because you take it out right away. But I want to make sure that those 2 ends meet. Everything else, I'm going to make sure that the seams are going in the right direction. Under there. Make sure these ends match. Again, be careful because you don't want to pull your fabric, because there are spaces in here still where you cut those seams across the stitch and they will come undone if you pull too hard. Okay, second one. And again, you could do this for all 11, or you could do them in groups like I have now. This is totally up to you how you want to do this. Okay. Make sure all your seams are laying flat. That's why I'm adjusting it and taking my time. And again, when I get to that end, I want to make sure that I'm not doing a lot of pulling, because I don't want to pull those seams apart. Sometimes it won't matter if you tug at the seam a little bit. Sometimes it does. And what I mean by that is that sometimes it'll create, especially if your seams are open, it'll create a little gap. And you'll see that little gap, and that will irritate you. And then you'll have to make a decision whether you want to rip it out and reinforce those seams, or whether you're willing to leave it like that and either hope that when you long arm it, or when you quilt it, if you're quilting it, that you catch those, and that it doesn't allow the batting to show through. So sometimes, because I do my own quilting, I'm like, yeah, I'll catch that. And sometimes I'll take it out. Sometimes it just irritates me, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. It depends. But if I'm sending it to a long armor, I don't want the holes. Because some long armors are going to fix it, and some might not catch it, especially if they're doing a digital version, and then you get it back with this hole, and if the hole has been quilted, you might not be able to whip stitch it with your needle and thread as nicely as you would like to. Okay, drop the iron, girl, drop the iron. Okay, here we go. So to the final step for the block, not for the quilt, but for the block. and this is not even a quilt, it's a table runner. But let me say this. A quilt can be a table runner, and a table runner can absolutely be a quilt. So you would need much more fabric than what the table runner calls for. So if the table runner has 11 squares, and you want, and these are 12 inches, so that would be almost as one short of a 3x4. So if you wanted, let's say 4x4, that would give you about 48 inches, which is almost the same size as a baby quilt. Then you would need 5 extra blocks to make it the same size as a baby quilt. If you wanted to make it wider and or longer, you would determine how many blocks you needed. So you might have to double this and get 22. So that would give you 6x4, a little less than 6x4. Or, you know, you would triple it and you would have almost an 8x4, or, you know, a 7x4. Like, you would have to figure out, you know, a 9x4, a 6x6. Like, you would have to figure out what you wanted that to be. And then depending on you doing the math, you would be able to make this into a quilt. So a little bit more work involved, but this absolutely could be a quilt. You need a little less material, maybe some scraps, if you were making this into a pillow cover. So this is totally up to you, you know, what your final result will be, but you can absolutely change this into a quilt if you so desire. So sometimes I see patterns for things and I'm like, that would make a cute table runner, because I don't want to do all the work. And then other times I'll say, oh, that'll make a cute quilt. Like I said a quilt would make a cute table runner. And when I started it, I was like, let me just make it a quilt. And I did, and it came out perfect. And I'm glad I changed my mind, because I was just going to go with the table runner. And then I was like, yeah, no. And we won't discuss how many table runners I have. Okay. Let me slide that over and not knock everything off on the floor. Okay. So the direction calls. Let me move this out the way. The direction calls for this to go like this. Okay. So your greens are always pointing together and your reds are always going to point together. Now here's the great thing, right? I don't have to do much more to this. And again, you can make some decisions. If you don't want that table runner the way that they have it, here's another suggestion, right? Because they have it on point. What they're suggesting for the pattern is to cut this in half, right? Like after you put it together, you're going to cut off the excess, and it's going to give you this. Now, mind you, this, you're going to have more blocks. So this is only the 4, but it's going to give you this look. And then you'll be able to bind it and you won't have those points, and it's perfect. So you would go all the way down it to do that. And you would, you know, you would have some up top, like, because you're not going to cut this off. This will be flat. But even if you cut that off, if I can do that, right? Because you can see, like, I'm folding this under. Imagine how much is being wasted right now in order to get that flat top and those flat sides. So you're going to lose a lot, and you could have did something with that. Like, that's my thing. If you want to, you could leave this and not have it on point because you don't want to waste your hard work, and just have the table runner like this. You wouldn't need 11 blocks. You would either need 12 because you need an even number now, or you could use one as a pillow cover, as a pillow. But you could have this. This would be 24 inches wide. So because these are 12 and a half, you would lose a half in here. So it'd be like 24 and a half inches wide. Okay. But either way, so you could do it this way. And I think this still looks fabulous the way that it is. And I'm even loving how it is showing up right now on screen, because this is a lot duller than what it looks like on that screen right now. So I love how it's coming out, but I could have it this way. I could also leave this as a table topper with just the 4. And then just sew everything together and place it in the center of the table on point if I wanted to, and just have the 2 edges hanging over. If I choose to keep it still as a square, remember those extra blocks I had? I could make this 4x4. That would give me my 48 inches approximately all the way around, which would give me a bigger table topper, or it would give me that baby quilt. So I don't have to make this a table runner if I don't want to. And I don't have to trim off those excess sides to lose the work that I've done. Because now that I think about it, even I read those directions and I was like, yeah, I was for it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't want to do that to myself. So I can choose to finish making the blocks. And then once I finish making the blocks, I absolutely could either finish making them, see how many blocks I have. I still have plenty of fabric to finish making enough to give me 4x4 for 16 blocks. And then I could make a baby size quilt. I could add a border and make it even bigger. Or I could make several different table runners if that's what I choose to do. I could have these just go like this and make a couple different table runners and just leave it side by side. I could do a table topper and put them together like this. Turn them on point on the table and then put like the candle in the center. Like I could have my candle, my salt and pepper. I could have everything around it the way that I wanted. So I could leave it like this. I could make this longer. This is so I would have another piece, 4x4 next to it. I could do another 4x4 next to it. That would give me, let me see, 4 is 12. So I have 6 on the bottom, 6 on the top. So 6 times 12 is 72 inches. So I could have 72 inches going across. And if I do 16 would be 8. So if I made 16, 8 across would be 96. I could make it a bed runner. I was going to say a bed quilt. It would be a bed runner. So I have options for what I want to do. I am not married to the pattern once I finish. But I will be married to it if I connect everything together and start cutting. So you want to play around with it before you cut. Determine what it is that you want this to look like and then go from there. And like I said, even at the 4, I love this for the 4. I made too many blocks not to finish it. So I can either make the rest of them. And again, I could put them on point on my table and have 4 of them there and dress this up beautifully with the 4 going across, if that's what I choose to do. And what I mean by that is, imagine if this is just 4 and it's going across my table like that, right? So then I could have candles here. a candle here, a candle at the other end, and then dress it up, and then maybe put my dishes on top of it, overlap them a little bit. I have options for what I want that to look like. I can still take each one of these units, which is 12 inches each, and I can make it a pillow. So I would border it with something. And so what I would probably use is some of this fabric, since it's inside and it won't be touching out here. So I could use some of that fabric, go around it, and then use that to make the thing. What I also like about this is, and I think somebody asked that question earlier, they asked, is this like a log cabin, right? So notice how just flipping it changes the design. So we now have all of the red in the center, and look how it creates like this box look out here. So it gives us some choices for what we want it to look like. I can change this. So now this is the center. So it could look like that. Okay. And again, like the whole quilt could look like that. So the whole quilt could have, if I'm making something bigger, would have some spaces where these would come together as the fours, and would have spaces here that would come together at as the fours. So you would make that decision, right? What you wanted it to look like based off of your final, decision. Thank you, Monica. It like that's the whole thing, right? This is like where I get stuck. Like, I like this. I do. But then, and again, if I'm doing a table runner, now mind you, I'm not going to have it going all the way across possibly, but if I have this sitting on my table, I may want these here. And then again, like there's that candle or the picture. It kind of looks like it was meant to be that way. I'm going to have these edges out here that aren't going to be complete. They'll be encased in binding, but it won't be complete. But if that's what I prefer, I can do that. There we go, dropping the stuff on the floor. Or, like I said, I can do that. And again, it's up to you how you want it to look. And then everything sits in that center. But again, these aren't complete out here because now they look like they've been cut off. But again, that's up to you, the way you want it to look. You can absolutely have this any way that you prefer for it to come together. It's, like you're not married to the pattern at this point. So I use the pattern for the block. I didn't have to use the pattern for the runner. And again, the difference for them is, if you're using the pattern for the runner, let me change that back just so we're clear. And this is a mini runner. This is not the full runner. But if this were the runner, they're suggesting that I cut straight down, and imagine there are more blocks there, all the way down to get that to be a straight edge. When I do that, I'm losing all of this to achieve this look. I worked hard on this half of this block, so I don't want to lose that. I could cut the blocks in half and then just put it on the other side. So I have a little bit of wiggle room in how I can make that happen, rather than cutting it the way that they suggest to cut it. And it'll fit, but you're still going to be cutting, and then, then we have to deal with, making sure that we cut through the middle and all the other fun stuff. But again, that's up to you. You could do the cutting for it. I could leave it this short and just have it cut on both sides, and this would work in the center of my table, because this long part here How long does that measure? Because that's going to drive me crazy if I do it any other way. It's 18 inches. So this is a 36-inch wide piece here. And I could add another one on it to make it a little bit longer. So if I made that a little bit longer, I could have that. And then what I would suggest doing is, again, I would take each of these, carefully cut them. And then if I carefully cut them, right, I have enough for this side and this side over here. So that I could make it longer and I wouldn't lose my hard work. That's not the way I believe that they did this, from what I can read from the directions. And that's why I said, like, I would alter this. Just so that I don't lose those pieces. And what they're saying is to not to have the gap, they're also adding in little squares right here on the end. So that when you trim this up, you're going to have just a little piece of a square that's left. But you're not even really even going to see it. It's just to kind of hold those pieces in place. Because you're going to do some cutting. As I can see, 1, 2, 3, that goes right to the edge. And then I see these on the edge, and I don't even see that little piece. Okay. So again, and you can see from the pattern, like what it looks like. So the whole goal is to have this on point. And so what I mean by on point is the red point is here, the red point is here. But when you get, and you can't really even see it, you're losing that right in here when you're cutting that off. So this will remain on point rather than everything going straight across. But again, like I said, I would play with this a little bit, see how this works. This will come right close to the edge, and I would trim a little bit of that off to make it work. That's just me. I'm going to think about what this looks like after I get the other 7 blocks, at least 7 blocks done. So I have 7 more blocks to work on. We started at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So it's now been 2.5 hours. So I am not going to hold you for longer. I'm going to join somebody else's live and hang out and watch them, eat some dinner, and then I'm gonna get the rest of these blocks done. And you already know I have content that I need to post because I didn't post the quilt from yesterday that I made, and I need to finish the blocks for this for today, so that I can post that. But they will be the quilt tops. I'm not going to promise that I will have this done by tomorrow, but that's not the goal, to have this done by tomorrow. So I will, work on that. But thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Thank you for the heart me's. Thank you for hanging out and tapping the screen. Thank you so much, Sabas. I appreciate you, darling. Thank you for 11K. I appreciate that, for your comments and compliments. I might jump on tomorrow morning. I don't know, to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, but I will do that now. So happy Merry Christmas Eve to those of you who celebrate that, and happy Merry Christmas to everyone else. And if I do not see you or hear from you, Happy New Year. So have a good one. I know that Black Sewing Network will not officially come back on until Friday. So I know that there are several lives. Check out, the Black Sewing Network to see who will be going live, because I will not lie to you and tell you what I remember. I know that on Sunday they are working on one of these patterns. So I believe it's a jumpsuit. I believe. So have a good one, everyone. Sabs, we know you're Merry Christmas, darling. So Merry Christmas to you, Sabs. And I will see you shortly, and thank you again for your support.